We are in digital era where everything has been described in number, and anything, everything, all the phenomena being described in number. And now we have tons of data, millions of data, and overwhelming of data, everything. And only the smart way is that you have to describe the data as at the same time you have to make the data, and from there you need to make the inferences and tell the story, take an action, and improve the process. That's what the whole circle is all about. So when you say data, storytelling from the data becomes very, very pivotal. Now we are in the age of AI, artificial intelligence, and so many other technologies come into play. So where, how to interpret the data, how to tell the story using that data is super important, and it has become a very important dimension. You can also call it as a niche, and this is the highest demand now than any other things in the world, right? So now I have picked up a discussion from the very book called The Power of Data Storytelling. So now in this book we are going to talk about storytelling using data. You have a data and how you can just describe a phenomena in data. So it has basically 9 chapters, and you can see here basically why the data is important, and then the structure. And when you say data, you have to visualize the data. For visualizing the data, you can use chart, graphs, and so on. And then the author is beautifully portrayed two things. One, when you have first it talks about the psychological aspect. Another one, it talks about the bad charts, how these bad charts or the graph can be replaced, can we make it visually appealing, at the same time we can drive an action to it. That's what the whole theme about this very book has said. And then a little bit of page number 7, and here it talks about each of that chapter. It has given, for example, story brings the data to life, and it has given everywhere data is there. The essence of data is storytelling. Getting to the core, planning is everything. The quick fix, making good stories great, and writer to storyteller, and use visuals to your advantage, and the final act. So this is nine chapter. Bit of the citation been given for each of the chapter in the beginning. And as you go along, you can find that this is what I really like about this book. This is called bad charts. In the beginning, the author has explained about bad chart. So if you look at that, this chart is a wealth of information. It has a lots of information. It is giving the month-wise, year-wise, a lot of data points, everything. So is absolutely overwhelming. At the same time, it is not extracting, or it is not giving the result what it intended to be, right? Meaning, so it is not drawing an attention of management or to whom you want to present it, right? So how to refine these charts so that you can convey that right meaning. For example, if you look at here, too many graphs, too many grades, too many basic thing. If you have too much of information, your attention get lost, and then you will not be able to convey that, right? For example, if you look at bar chart or pie chart and all that, right? So when you say pie chart, more than 5 categories, if you have, it becomes very, very clumsy. You will not be able to drive an action. The same thing, it has given an antidote in page number 201. So then each and everything it has been further explained. So why it is called bad chart, and how why we are not able to convey the meaning, everything. And the same thing, it has given in some visuals, right? The part which you wanted to highlight, that you can just give it. So now you start correcting that, okay, this was the bad chart, incorrect chart, how we can modify that chart to make it more appealing, everything. And then colors also makes a difference, so don't use too much of colors and all that. And then this is also, when you say, anytime when you use any donut chart, make sure that you have only 5 category, right? If you have more than 5 category, then use bar chart and some other chart. But right chart, donut chart is not right fit. And then if you look at here, in the beginning, as I said, I will be describing the other things also as well. Our brain constantly look for pattern, right? So if you look at this data, it has been divided, like you can say first upper chunk and lower chunk, and then it has what you want that to be focused. It has been given here, right, in different colors and all that. So you can, any user who is reading this chart can easily make out that, okay, the presenter wants to say something using these visuals, right? So visuals play a role. So you can see that here we are talking about India. In India, so one different color has been given, and you can easily call out that values, everything. Right? And then furthermore, like 3D chart should be avoided, really avoided, right? 3D chart is always a distorting, and it is not a good idea to use the 3D chart. Although it may be fancy, it may look good and all that, but the information can be misleading. Right? So instead of that, what you can do is you can use a donut charts, everything, and too much lines, too much of these also not a good idea. And then what you need to do it is that what you want to focus, that you can give. This is the best example, right? You have a very less data point, and then what is the difference between two fiscal years is being given, and then what is the gap range has been given, and then that differential value has been highlighted, and then you can just the end of the one, the latest value has been added to it, right? So it is super easy to interpret the data and all that, right? And similarly, like if you have that negative trends and all that, it also talks about the various other companies example also as well. But idea is that keep it simple, trend line chart, and make it what is the differential you want to convey, make that as the key highlighter, right? So grid lines and all that you can remove, keep the chart plain, simple, and use a very light color, brand center colors, and as per your company palette colors you can use it. Keep it simple, and it will convey the main messages. Let's go back. So I was talking about the psychological aspect, and here in this book it also talks about, so you can see that how to interpret the data, it all is very important, right? So let me pick up the discussion. So this is one of the psychological tests actually. So if you have that this much of data, it's overwhelming and too much data points, everything, you will not be able to convey it. The same data, if you just chunk it, you will be able to find it, right? So the only thing is that the power of visual aesthetic is very important, where you just draw, our brain constantly look for patterns. So what you have to do is that you have to create in a way that you can convey it using bifurcating the data, visualizing the data, giving different colors. That way we can just keep the data, keep your graph healthy so that you can convey that meaning. So one last part I wanted to talk about it. So it says that say it like you mean it. So one of the chapter, and then so it has given different scenario. One scenario is that you have a data and you want to drive action, and then you have do the action, and then you just complete it, right? Another one is that you trying to put so much data, and you're taking so much time to build the story using it, and people are not able to follow it, everything. So at the end you will not be able to convey what you intended to say. So like this, various examples being given using the psychological tools and everything. And let me pick up one last thing. This is what I really wanted to end the discussion here, right? How our brain see the data. So there are 4 aspects it has given. So aspect number 1, if your data is well visualized, what happens is that the dopamine get rushed, you get its inclination to take a look on the data, and then you try to there is always curiosity coming to play, and then you try to see what's happening, and then you try to interpret the data and then take an action. This is what the first thing, right? So release of dopamine and how the dopamine releases, and only thing is dopamine looks for the patterns and all that, right? And then another aspect is that so emotional connect. So your data should connect the story, right? Connect the dot. That's what it talks about, that how the plasticity and neurons being connected if you tell the story from the data. And then emotions find a strong connect with the audience and etching it in a long-term memory and ability to influence decision making. And then neural coupling, that also talk stories allow the audience to identify with the idea experience as that their own living on that asset. And then the very, very important and far most important thing is pattern. The whole storytelling, if we summarize in one single word, the one single word will be patterning the data, visualizing the data, and scrubbing the data, using the data in a way that it can be easily explainable and easily understandable. So this is the main crux of the entire discussion. As a summary, always make the data slicer, dicer, make the data, create a pattern and like a stratification, scatter diagram and all that, so that it will be easily, you can infer the data, you can just give the inferences about it. At the same time, when it comes to visuals, don't use too much grid lines, too much data points, everything, and instead you can use simple lines, and with whatever you wanted to highlight, you can just do that. In addition to it, I also request you to take a look on another book called Storytelling with Data by Wiley Publication. That is also an interesting book. and I find it lots of interesting in that book also as well. And this book is also, if you're a beginner and if you wanted to really make a good presentation, this is the good book to read it. And it is available. It is less than 4,000 rupees in Indian rupees, so you can easily get this book as well. So please have a read it and enjoy it. Thank you so much.